Good morning, children. Today we are going to learn about geography's first chapter, that is resource and development. So, in this chapter we are going to learn about what is resource, what are the different types of resources, and how the resource development take place, what is resource planning, how can we conserve these resources, and land as a resource, and also land degradation and conservation measures, soil and different types of soil and their characteristics, and also we are going to learn about soil erosion and conservation. So coming to resource and development, our geography's first chapter. What do you mean by resource? Resource means everything which is available in the environment is a resource. The chalk piece what I am using is a resource. The duster is a resource. Your cameras, whatever you are watching, are resources. Everything which is available in and around are nothing but resources. So, are these resources directly available in the environment? No. They are being modified by human being. So, transformation has taken place. Human being, with the help of raw material, whatever was available in the environment, he has converted them into resources. So what is the exact definition for resource? Everything which in our environment which can be used to satisfy our need, provided they are technologically accessible, economically feasible, culturally acceptable, are termed as resources. So, in this definition we understood that what is resource. So, everything in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs. We are very familiar with this. But the three terms like technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable. What are these three terms in this definition mean? Technologically accessible. Take example. We in our earth crust, we see there are so many minerals found in it. So those minerals we generally extract them and we transform them and we make them into a resource. Later on, once we transform them and make them into a resource, we utilize them. They are satisfying our needs, isn't it? So there is a process for this, from raw material stage to the resource stage. This is nothing but transformation. So, for this, there are three main terminologies which we need to learn. Technologically accessible. When we are extracting these resources, is the technology really accepting it to take out the resources? We have sufficient amount of technology wherein we can utilize it to extract those resources. So, whether we are technologically accessible to extract those resources. Next, economically feasible means economically we have that much sufficient amount to conveniently extract those resources. Whether really it is worthy enough for us to extract those resources for economical development. Then, culturally acceptable means whether the society is accepting for its extraction. Suppose if these resources are somewhere around near the religious places or the private properties, are those people really accept them? So cultural acceptance is also important. The people or the culture should accept for this extraction. So these three terms, technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable, when this is possible, then it is called as resource. So we are very clear. Everything will satisfy our needs, provided they are technologically accessible, culturally acceptable and economically feasible, are known as resources. Then, when we know the definition of resource, then from raw material stage to the resource stage, there is a need, there is a process. That process is nothing but transformation. The transformation of resources from raw material stage to the resource stage. So, human beings, generally this is done by human being. Human being himself is a good resource. He himself is a learned people as a resource. There we came across how important these human resources are, isn't it? So extension to that, so here people themselves became a resource. So these people, these human beings interact with the environment, and with the help of technology, they create the institutions to transform these resources. Got my point, children? So human being with the help of nature and technology create the institutions and transform the resources. So transformation of resources take place, raw material to resources. Then these resources are being classified. They are classified into two types, natural resource and human resource. What are natural resource? They are again classified into renewables and non-renewables. What are renewable resources? These are the resources which can be renewed, regenerated or replenished. These resources can be reused. Again and again they can be reproduced. Again they are classified into continuous resource and biological resource. What are continuous? Means the resources which are continuously available in the nature. Example, wind, sunlight, air and water. These are nothing but continuous resources. They are continuously available. From these resources we convert them. Then comes biological resources. Means these are also renewable. They can be reproduced, renewed. But they need certain time for their renovation. Like natural vegetation, wildlife, they cannot be continuously provided, isn't it so? For a tree to grow from a plant to a tree, ultimately it takes certain time. The wildlife also will not be continuously available in the same phase, isn't it so? They changes their phases of development. So these biological resources are not continuously available. They are continuously available, but they take certain time for their renovation. So resources, these renewable resources can be continuous resource and biological resource. Continuous, the examples are wind and water, which can be continuously available, whereas biological, they need little bit of time. They are always available, but their biological process takes little bit of time. So they are natural vegetation and water. Then come to non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources are those resources which cannot be renewed, which cannot be regenerated. Understood? So, again they are classified into two, recyclable and non-recyclable resources. Recyclable means, take the examples of metals. Metals can be extracted. Once they are extracted, they are being made into resources. And those resources, take the example of iron. If iron is once extracted and they have been prepared into a resource, that resource can be recycled. They cannot be renewed but recycled. Certain commodity like your benches or chairs, once they are prepared, again they can be recycled. That material can be of certain use for production of other goods. But the same bench cannot be again prepared from the same iron material, isn't it? So those are nothing but recyclable. These resources cannot be renewed but they can be recycled. Then non-renewable resource, you have one more, non-recyclable means these once used they lost their identity. Like fossil fuels, petroleums. Once they are used, they cannot be recycled or renewed. So natural resources, one more concept is non-recyclable. Coming to human resources. Human resources are structured and institutions. So human resources have certain structure and they are being utilized mainly in the institutions. Whereas the other type of human resources are qualitative resource and quantitative resource. Qualitative means number of people. Quantitative means we are skilled people. So human resources are again classified into qualitative and quantitative resources. These are classification of resources. Coming to the next concept, that is types of resources. We have 4 types of resources. Those are on the basis of their origin. They are classified into 2 types, that is biotic abiotic resources. On the basis of their exhaustibility, they are classified into two types. Those are renewables and non-renewables. On the basis of ownership, they are classified into three types, that is individual resources, community resources, national resources and international resources. On the basis of status of development, again they are classified into four types. Those are potential resources, developed resources, stocks and reserve. Let us look into each type of resources on the basis of their origin. What do you mean by on the basis of their origin? There are two types, biotic and abiotic resources. Biotic resources. These are the resources which are obtained from biosphere. All the living organisms like human beings, flora, fauna, fishery, livestock, all the living organisms comes under biotic resources. Abiotic resources are those resources which are composed of non-living organism. They does not have any life, like metals. All the non-rocks are the best examples of non-renewable resources. On the basis of the exhaustibility, coming to the second one, on the basis of exhaustibility, they are classified into two types, renewables and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are those resources which can be renewed or reproduced with the help of physical, chemical and mechanical changes. That we have seen examples of wind, water, metals, etc. Then non-renewable resources. They take long time. These non-renewable resources generally they take long time for their formation. The geographical features are formed in such a way that they take millions of years. You take the examples of coals and petroleums also. Within a one day, 1 year or 1 month they cannot be formed. They take millions and millions of years for their formation. Those are nothing but non-renewable resources. Then coming to on the basis of ownership. So resources are again divided into different types. On the basis of ownership, among the individual resources, the resources which belongs to individual person. Take the example, a farmer generally says that this land belongs to me, or in rural areas the farmers generally have this sort of concept saying that this land belongs to me. In urban areas people say that this plot belongs to me, this house belongs to me. It means that the particular resource belongs to an individual person. The whole resource, the countries, the whole resource, whatever is available in a country belongs to the nation. But they are being individually provided to the people for their survivability. In return, what does these people do? They pay certain amount of revenue to the government for the property whatever they have owned. Understood, children? So, whatever the property they have owned, on the basis for owning that particular property, they pay certain amount of revenue to the nation. So, coming to the next type of ownership, that is community or owned resources. Community owned resources means the resources which belongs to a particular community. Take the example, you have seen a park near your house. You generally go and utilize that park. You generally play over there, you have a walk over there, isn't it? So you people are utilizing that particular park rather than people from Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh are not coming and utilizing those parks. Means these property which are commonly used by the people of that particular community only. The examples are some picnic spots, parks, burial grounds. These are some examples of community owned resources. Coming to nation resources. The resource we have already seen. All the resources which are available in the nation belongs to that particular nation only. So all these resources are the resources which belong to that particular nation. But sometimes for the people's betterment or the people's good, these resources are being utilized by the government. Take the example. We have seen generally when there is a road extension which goes on, isn't it so? At that time the shops and the individual houses which are near in and around the particular roads are being demolished and the road extension take place. It means that the government to utilize those private properties also, whatever is near that particular facility. In return, these people doesn't have any right to give the objection for this. This is specially for the betterment of the people. Even some around 22 kilometers to the boundary of a particular nation, those resources also belongs to the particular country itself. The political boundary and the oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles also belongs to that particular nation only. So those are national resources. Coming to the next one, that is international resources. These are the resources which are regulated by the international institutions. International institutions generally regulate these resources. The oceanic resource beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone belongs to these international resources. Then coming to the next one, on the basis of status of development, how these resources are developed, on the basis of their development, how these resources are developed. In that, coming to the first one, that is potential resources. These are the resources which have the potentiality to produce the goods, but they are not being utilized. Take the example, in Rajasthan you have abundant amount of solar and wind energy, but we are not utilizing the whole available resources. Means the potentiality exists, but the utilization doesn't happen over here. Then coming to developed resources. These are the resources which are surveyed and their quality and quantity have been used for their utilization. But these resources, due to the technological accessibility and economical feasibility is not existing properly, due to which the development is not extendedly taking place. Coming to the stock. Stock is the material in the environment which has the potential to satisfy human need, but human beings are not appropriate to have technological assessment. It means that, take the example, we have water. The compounds of water are hydrogen and oxygen. Availability of water exists, but we doesn't have that amount of technological know-how to develop these two compounds. These are nothing but stocks. Coming to the next one, that is reserves. These are the subset of stock, and these are existing in the technological know-how, but their use have not been started. Their use have not been started yet. These resources are existing as reserves, but they are technologically, they have not yet started. Take the example, the rivers have abundant amount of water. The dams are constructed on it. But those dams generally can provide hydroelectricity with the help of those dams, but they are only utilized for limited purposes. Means the river water is reserved enough, but the utilization of these reserves are not taken place for the purpose for which they are being started. Then we have seen about different types of resources. Coming to development of resources. We are very well aware that resources are very important for human survival as well as for the maintaining of quality of life. We know about this, isn't it, sir? For survival of human beings, we need resources. As well as to increase or develop the quality of the life also, we need resources. But due to indiscriminate use of resources, we are facing lot of problems. What sort of problems we are facing? Depletion of resources are satisfying only the greeds of individual. Depletion of resources. These are the things. The resources are being depleted only into the few greedy people, due to which the resources are not available to each and every person. Accumulation of resources in few hands, which in turn divided the society into two segments, that is haves and have. Accumulation means a particular person who has resources are only acquiring those resources more and more, due to which the poor is becoming more poor one place. Depletion is taken place, depletion of resources, especially when the greedy people extract more and more, automatically the resource level get down. So depletion is taken place. Then accumulation of resources are taken place. Accumulation only to the people who have the resources are utilizing it the more and the more. The people who don't have they are not having resources at all. Then indiscriminate exploitation of resources. When the resources are indiscriminately exploited, ultimately leading towards the global warming. These are the three main problems which we are facing due to resource development of resource. Then what can be done? So we need certain type of measures to overcome this. So resource planning became an essential component. So why does resource planning is needed? Because these are the problems which we are facing due to further development of resources. So when resource planning concept came out, sustainable development has occupied the space. What is sustainable development? Sustainable economical development means development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the need of future generation. It means sustainable economical development means development should take place without damaging the environment. It should not damage any sort of the environment, and it should be preserved for the future generation. That is known as sustainable development, for which an international Earth Summit was conducted in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. 100 heads of the state have attended this meet for declaration of global climatic changes and biodiversity, stating that to adopt the principle of Agenda 21. For what purpose they want to adopt this principle Agenda 21? To achieve the sustainable development in 21st century. So 100 delegates, 100 heads of the institutions have signed in United Nations Conference on Environmental Development, stating that global sustainable development will be given preference, and one major objective of Agenda 21 is every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21 for sustainable development. When this sustainable development concept came out, then we understood that resource planning is needed. Then why do we need resource planning? Because we are aware India is a diverse country. Even in the basis of availability of resources also. On the basis of availability of resources also, India is a diverse country. India doesn't have equal distribution of resources. Take the example. Most of the minerals are specially found in plateau regions like Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand areas, whereas Arunachal Pradesh has abundant resources of water but very lack of infrastructure. In the same way, even Rajasthan and Gujarat has abundant availability of wind energy and solar energy but doesn't have any technological know-how to utilize them. Simultaneously, Ladakh is isolated from the country, and Ladakh has very good tourist attraction, but the facilities are not easily available. That is why there is a great need for resource planning. Then how does this resource planning take place? So there are different steps for following this resource planning. So the process of resource planning should take place. So in that, the first process is identification of resources. We should identify and inventory the resources where these resources are actually available. First we need to survey them, we need to map them, we need to look at the quantity and quality of the resources. So identification of resources, surveying them, mapping them, their quality and quantitative is the first process of resource planning. The next process is involving the planning structure with appropriate technology, skills and institution. Appropriate technology, whether it is available, whether the skilled people are available, whether the institutions are created for these development, so should be taken into consideration. This is the the second step for resource planning. The third step is matching the resource development plan with the national development plan. So, whatever the resource development plan we are doing, they should be on par with the nation's development plan, due to which the resource development can easily take place. So, this is how the process of resource planning should take place. That is why all these resources need to be conserved. The resources need to be conserved. Why does we need resource to be conserved? Because they are being irrationally utilized and overutilization of resources are taken place, due to which so many environmental problems are arising. The main concern of the leader, our Gandhiji, said that there is enough for everybody's need but not for everybody's greed. It means that we have enough amount of resources to satisfy the needs of all the people, but we cannot satisfy the greed of the people, because the greedy people are not at all satisfied with what they want. So he was against the concept stating that mass production, he was against the concept of mass production and wanted to replace with the production by masses. The mass production of resources should not take place. Instead of it should be replaced by production by mass number of people. So most of the people are attracted towards, especially the invaders are attracted towards India because of these resources. We have also seen different phases of their invasions and different phases of their colonial people, how they have depleted these resources, and which has led us towards the sustainable development, resource planning and conservation of resources. Thank you, children.